Light floods the frame before anything else can. The more light appears, the less the center can be seen. The brightest thing on screen is hiding the darkest object. At first, that sounds impossible. Then the image refuses to explain itself. For a moment, the eye keeps searching for contrast, an edge, a boundary, something to lock onto. It never arrives. TON 618 hides inside its own light. A white blaze stretches outward. At the center, a dark region seems present without becoming visible. The source should be the easiest part of the image to see. Instead, it is the only part that refuses to resolve. The image remains almost unchanged. The glare continues. The center stays hidden. That is the first clue. TON 618 is powered by one of the most massive black holes ever identified. Yet the object itself is not what you see. What reaches your eyes is the violence around it. The cause remains concealed by the result. And that changes the meaning of the brightness entirely. What looked like clarity begins to feel like concealment. The glow becomes evidence that something underneath cannot be viewed normally. Human sight depends on contrast. This object destroys that comfort. The realization arrives quietly. The light is not the object. It is the warning. Matter is already moving when we arrive. The bright disk around the hidden center burns harder, wider, hotter. Streams of material appear stretched inward, pulled into a shape that never settles. The image is no longer just light. It is damage in progress. A ring of blazing matter circles a black gravitational center. The glow sharpens. The darkness does not. Everything around the source becomes more violent, while the source itself remains absent. At first, that seems useful. More light should reveal more. Instead, the opposite happens. The quasar turns the object into evidence. Not evidence of what it looks like, but evidence of what it does. TON 618 announces itself through destruction. The scale is not... Its mass is estimated at tens of billions of solar masses. The mind can repeat the number. The mind cannot live inside it. There is no familiar comparison that survives for long beside something this large. And that is where the pressure changes. The problem is no longer visibility. Human scale begins to fail. The viewer realizes the black hole is being measured by destruction. The glowing disk, the stretched matter, the burning light. These are not details surrounding the object. They are the only readable surface it leaves behind. This is how darkness becomes visible. The quasar no longer looks like illumination. It starts to resemble a wound wrapped around the thing creating it. A clean model begins to form. Lines appear around the object. Motion becomes organized. The glowing material follows a visible path inward. The light no longer looks random. It behaves like a system. For a moment, it makes sense. Matter falls. The accretion flow heats up. The quasar shines. The hidden center remains dark. Cause and effect appear to fit together. The explanation feels solid. TON 618 fits the model too well. The contradiction arrives quietly. If feeding matter explains the quasar, the object should begin to feel contained. Instead, every successful explanation stretches the frame wider. The mystery shrinks. The pressure grows. The realization lands all at once. The explanation has become more frightening than the unknown. What first looked like relief now feels different. The model is no longer protecting the viewer from the object. It is forcing the viewer closer to its true scale. The earlier glow, the flowing matter, the apparent order, none of it was reducing the threat. It was teaching the mind how large the threat actually is. The image returns one last time. A tiny point of quasar light hangs in deep space. Around it, there is almost nothing to compare against. No grid, no scale marker, no familiar frame. Just distance. Earlier comparisons flash through memory and disappear. None
Operating
of them
as a
lasted.
single, vast lens,
TON
the network
618
aligns in the
remains
void.
unchanged.
But even with identical calibration,
It does not move closer. It does not spread across the sky. It does not need to. The point of light remains small. The meaning behind it does not. For a moment, the scene becomes quiet. The quasar burns in silence. The surrounding darkness remains still. Nothing changes. That observation should feel comforting. Instead, it creates a different realization. The viewer finally understands that the object was never a threat because of where it is. It was never a threat because it might reach us. The failure arrives somewhere else. If distance means safety, TON 618 should feel less threatening. But distance only reveals how little scale depends on us. It does not have to move. Even from billions of light years away, it changes how size feels. It changes how danger feels. It changes how reality is measured. Humans can remain safe from an object and still be defeated by what it reveals. The original glow now looks different. That first burst of brightness was not simply a remarkable image. It was the first sign that ordinary proportion was already breaking down. The real threat was never hidden inside the darkness. It was hidden inside the assumption that human scale was large enough to understand what we were seeing. And once that assumption fails, TON 618 is distant, but not small. Distance does not make it smaller. It only makes the lesson harder to escape.